Drake Maye isn't just an MVP candidate. After the halfway point of the season, we'll tell you why he's the guy to beat. Let's start there. This is Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening? I am your host, Nick Cattles, born and raised in New England, been covering the Patriots for the past 16 years, also co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles and a sports talk show host veteran. On today's show, find out what the first half of this 2025 season has revealed to us with some of our biggest takeaways. In the second segment, we dive into the latest Pats rumors less than 1 week away from the trading deadline and give you our list of needs. But first, Drake Maye's MVP bandwagon is getting really, really full. We appreciate you joining the show, making us your first listen, and for being an everydayer. The Locked On Patriots podcast is a proud partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last couple weeks, we've talked about Drake Maye and the MVP conversation, quote unquote. And I've said that, yes, before this point, before week 8, before that game against the Cleveland Browns, Drake Maye was unequivocally in the conversation for the MVP. He was in the conversation. Post Browns, I think Drake Maye is your MVP favorite. Now, when we talk about MVP favorites, we all have to understand, acknowledge, and embrace the idea that we're splitting hairs. We're talking about some of the best players in football, and really, unfairly, best of the best quarterbacks in football, because as we know, quarterbacks usually win the MVP. And so 1 week, 2 weeks can mean the difference. One bad week for one quarterback, while another quarterback does great, that can put that other quarterback that did great ahead in the race. And so when you look at what happened during week 8, now we are at the halfway point getting ready for week 9. Dak Prescott was not good last week for the Cowboys. They got trounced big time. You look at Baker Mayfield. I thought Baker Mayfield was leading this race going back 3 weeks ago. Last 2 weeks, Baker has not been very good. You might say Daniel Jones, as the Indianapolis Colts continue to win football games, I would say, well, Daniel Jones has Jonathan Taylor, who I think should be in the MVP conversation. And as I've just said a few moments ago, quarterbacks usually win, and that's probably why Jonathan Taylor is not getting as much pub to be the MVP, because he plays running back. Jared Goff, a lot of people look at the team that he has, the weapons around him. I would say he has more help than Drake Maye. To me, my opinion, the MVP race through the first half of this season is down to two individuals. It is Patrick Mahomes versus Drake Maye. With that in mind, we asked the question, how do those two guys stack up? Mahomes versus Maye. Let's look at the traditional statistics. Passing yards, Patrick Mahomes, 2,099. Drake Maye, 2,026. Practically the same. Touchdowns, Patrick Mahomes, 17. Drake Maye, 15. So slight edge in yards, slight edge in passing touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes. Completion percentage, Drake Maye, big advantage. 75.2% is Drake Maye's completion percentage. Patrick Mahomes at 67%. And if you're looking at passer rating, big advantage for Drake Maye. Maye is number 1 in all of football at 118.7. Meanwhile, Mahomes is ranked 10th in passer rating at 103.1. So when you look at the traditional statistics, it's 2 versus 2. When you look at the analytics, QBR from ESPN, this is kind of eerie, but Drake Maye is tied with Patrick Mahomes in QBR. They both are at exactly 76.3. Kind of crazy. EPA, according to Sumer Sports, Patrick Mahomes is first, Drake Maye is fourth. EPA per play, Maye is actually tied with Mahomes. They're tied for fourth, and that includes Lamar Jackson, who has only played 131 plays versus 300 plus for Drake Maye and Patrick Mahomes. Total adjusted EPA, according to Kevin Cole. Drake Maye is second. Patrick Mahomes is seventh. Completion percentage over expected. Maye is number one in the NFL. When you look at the traditional stats and then you look at the analytics, I would say Drake Maye has the overall slight edge. But the help around Maye, even though it's better than it was in 2024, is still well below many others. Ben Solak of ESPN wrote, Maye's running game constantly puts him in difficult spots. On non-quarterback runs this season, the Patriots are 26th in yards per carry, 30th in success rate. Ben Solak continues, Maye faces 7.6 yards to go on third down. The league average is 7.5. Dak Prescott has the third shortest third downs. Daniel Jones is second. Yet on third and fourth downs, Maye is second in the league in EPA per dropback and seventh in first down / touchdown rate. The schedule, Nick, it's the schedule. How can you give Drake Maye the MVP after the first 8 games given the schedule he's played? Well, let's go back to Ben Solak of ESPN. In obvious pass situations, Solak writes, there is no quarterback playing better. And we've touched on this throughout the year, but third and fourth down, passing downs, Solak writes, on plays with an NFL next-gen stats pre-snap pass probability of 75% or higher. So plays that you can predict 75% will be a pass play because defenses are expecting pass, dialing up blitzes. Drake Maye, under those circumstances, is first in EPA per dropback. He is second in success rate and second in passer rating. So when you look at obvious pass situations, Drake Maye is the best quarterback in the NFL when facing those circumstances. Third and fourth down dominance. Third and long, better than anyone else. Then you can mention the offensive line. Maye is 10th in the league in quick pressure rate, according to Ben Solak, which speaks to a porous offensive line. In fairness, I would say some of that quick pressure is on Maye himself. A lot of that quick pressure is on the team, tight ends, running backs. And nobody is better throwing the deep ball than Drake Maye. Fantasy football data. Drake Maye on throws 20-plus air yards. He's first in completion percentage over expected, second in passer rating. He's tied for first for highly accurate throw percentage. He's tied for first in catchable throw percentage. And he is first when it comes to off-target percentage. So Drake Maye, the best on third and fourth down, the best deep ball thrower, analytically, statistically, a top 5 quarterback pretty much across the board. Things might absolutely change, and there's plenty of time for things to change. That's why it's the halfway point. But right now, at that halfway point, Drake Maye, in my humble opinion, is the MVP of the NFL. I think he just edges out Patrick Mahomes. It's close, but I think Drake Maye has had the better overall season. And even when you account for schedule, even when you account for certain circumstances they face, when you look at the help that they have, Drake Maye is the MVP through 8 weeks. Playing against the toughest defense that he has played against all year, the Cleveland Browns last weekend, he continued to show why he's one of the best quarterbacks in football this year. And as we talked about earlier in the week, he aced that test. All right, a top NFL insider bets on the Pats making a trade before next week's trading deadline. We'll have that and much more next. This is Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's talk about Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, Athletes, they sweat all the details, the type of details that lead to a 5-game winning streak and MVP conversations. Well, Mazda brings that same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And here's something that's really cool, especially if you have to deal with the weather in the Northeast. All-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, so you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Unlike our players, Mazda, they sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues and login screens and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why you should use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you see is the price that you actually pay. You can pull up Gametime in just a couple of taps. You see amazing deals. Talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. The app makes it super simple. You can even see the exact view from the seat before you buy the ticket. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. As luck would have it, as I'm sitting here recording this podcast for all of you, about to talk about the trading deadline, which is, 6 days away from when this is going to be released, I've got some breaking news. I did a breaking news podcast earlier in the day about Marcus Jones and his contract extension. Well, the New England Patriots are not done making some moves. Keion White has been traded. According to the NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, Keion White has been traded to the San Francisco 49ers. It is Keion White and a 7th-round pick to the 49ers for a 6th-round pick. Now, that's the best you're going to get for Keion White, frankly. And somebody had asked me on Twitter earlier this week, since Keion White was a healthy scratch on Sunday, which for all intents and purposes ended his Patriots career. He, for whatever reason, just did not work out with the Patriots. I thought the new coaching staff would help him an awful lot. Looked like early in camp he was going to have a breakthrough. That certainly did not happen. He continued to decline throughout camp. He was leapfrogged by Keion Chason, who's been mostly excellent this season. And so Keion White went from promising young pass rusher with this new coaching staff to a healthy scratch by week 8. And so somebody had asked me on Twitter, what could we expect the Patriots to get in return? And I said specifically, late round pick swap. And so that's what you really get. Keion White and a 7th-round pick goes to San Francisco for a 6th-round pick. This will just add to the draft pick allotment that the Patriots have. And hopefully they will be able to, in 2026, in that draft in April, whether they use that 6th-round pick on a player or they package a couple of picks and use that pick as part of that package to move up in the draft in April. It was rather obvious that Keion White did not have a future with the Patriots, and they wanted to move on from him. And that's a tough situation when you look at somebody who was, drafted in the 2nd round. And, he has a lot of the physical gifts and he has the hard work, but the work ethic, by many people, by many accounts, just was not able to put it together. And some would say he's a tweener. He's not athletic enough necessarily at the NFL level to be a pass rusher on the edge consistently. He's not big enough to pass rush from the inside consistently. I would say I think he still has some value as an interior pass rusher, but the Patriots, as I've mentioned this week in prior podcasts, the interior defensive line, they're deep and they're talented there. You've got Milton Williams and Christian Barmore and Kyrie's Tonga. You've got Joshua Farmer, who's been coming on lately. You've got Corey Durden, who's been coming on lately. There's only so much room. So, you already got 4 or 5 guys you've been using. So Keion White's just not going to fit on the inside. So you take the 6th round pick and you move on. And hopefully that pick becomes something. Again, whether it's part of a package or it's a pick itself, you throw a dart. The Patriots threw a dart at Kayshon Boutte and Pop Douglas a couple of years ago. And so far, you've gotten good production out of those guys, considering they're 6th round picks. So I think it's the right move. Cut your losses, move on. Hopefully, for Keion White's NFL career, he can figure some things out in San Francisco. He'll be paired with Robert Saleh, who's a good defensive coordinator. Maybe it works out for him in the Bay Area. So there's that deal. Patriots might not be done. That might not be the only trade that we see. Again, we're now 6 days away from the deadline when this podcast is released, and there are lots of rumors flying around. The Patriots are involved. Adam Schefter said on Pat McAfee's show this week, quote, "I could see the Patriots making a move here. I can see New England saying, hey, we're in this great spot right now. We got a chance to beat Buffalo for the division. We got a chance to host a home playoff game. I wouldn't be surprised if New England made a move here before the deadline," unquote. Now, I'm thinking Adam Schefter is talking about adding, not necessarily subtracting. Diana Rossini and Josina Anderson have also both reported that the Patriots are calling teams and they're looking around. So what do the Patriots need? Well, before the Keion White trade, I had defensive end as the top need. So now with Keion White being dealt to San Francisco, I would say the need for defensive end depth is even more urgent now. It's even more significant. Keion White's gone. Anthony Jennings hasn't played a ton. I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Jennings is traded at some point before the deadline. So, you're not going to use Jennings nearly as much as the last regime used him. So you have K'Lavon Chaisson and Harold Landry as your defensive ends who are getting the vast majority of the snaps. And Mike Vrabel talked about managing some of the vets as you get deeper into the season, especially with a week 14 bye. And if you want to get into the playoffs, if you want to be a postseason team that might scare some others, then you need your veterans, you need your trusted guys to be as healthy as possible. So I don't think the Patriots are comfortable continuing to roll out K'Lavon Chaisson and Harold Landry as much as they have throughout the remainder of this season, and not because those guys haven't been good. Landry has been good, and K'Lavon Chaisson's been excellent. It's just if you do want to manage those two guys, you got to play some other dudes. Now, Braden Swinson, of course, is on the practice squad. Could Braden Swinson play a role? I don't know if they want to put that on a rookie who wasn't good enough in camp to make the roster out of camp. So defensive end, some experience there would be huge. Somebody who could help with the pass rush would be huge. Trey Hendrickson, we've talked about. I don't think he's available. Reportedly, Cincinnati is not going to make him available. Maybe that changes now after the brutal loss to the Jets last weekend. But the Patriots need at least one other defensive end, at least, that they can bank on to make some plays, especially when the games get even more important, even more snug. Cornerback is another position I would look at. You got the injury history with Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez. You want that extra depth there. Alex Austin was given his opportunity at the beginning of the season. He did not play nearly well enough to hold on to that spot. So I think some cornerback depth behind Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez makes a lot of sense. If you can find another outside corner, Roger McCreary was kind of rumored to be part of the Patriots' thought process in some places. He was dealt to the LA Rams earlier this week. So Roger McCreary is no longer available. But I think an outside corner makes a lot of sense. Other spots, I think if you look at for depth, adding a running back would not be the worst idea in the world. Adding a tight end who can block consistently would not be the worst idea in the world. I also think inside linebacker, are you super comfortable with Christian Ellis? He's played better than he did at the beginning of the season, but can you upgrade there? Jack Gibbons has been up and down. I'd say mostly down the past couple of weeks. Jelani Tavai has done pretty well in certain spots, but they're not playing him a ton. And Marte Mapu, as we saw last weekend, he's still adjusting to be a linebacker. And, he was a disaster on that 3rd and long against Cleveland, which ended up as a touchdown drive. So I think inside linebacker's a spot. Safety, especially if Kyle Duggar is traded. And Adam Schefter on his podcast this week said, quote, the Patriots have been open to moving off Kyle Duggar, which we've known. But Schefter continued, quote, I would bet. Schefter said, I would bet Kyle Duggar is no longer a Patriot by the time the trade deadline comes around. So if you trade Kyle Duggar, what happens to that safety spot? What happens to your safety depth? You've got Jalen Hawkins. You've got Craig Woodson. The Patriots decided to play Kyle Duggar ahead of Del Pettis, which was an interesting decision when Jalen Hawkins was out with the hammy. So I think some veteran safety depth might be something you look at. Wide receiver, I just don't see anybody out there that's reportedly available that's going to move the needle enough. Like Chris Olave, reportedly unavailable. A.J. Brown might be available. The contractual stuff is weird and put the Eagles in a very difficult spot if they traded him this year during the season. But, reportedly, the Eagles are only going to trade A.J. Brown if they even trade him in the first place, if they get like a king's ransom. Of course, that's what they're trying to tell reporters. Is that the truth? Who knows? But it feels like the price for A.J. Brown might be way too high in this moment. And you also wonder about A.J. Brown's fit with the culture. Yes, he's been with Mike Vrabel before, but he was the number one bona fide guy in Tennessee. And it's a different system. It's a different feel with this offense. And you've got guys that are kind of, simpatico, so to speak, with each other. And Josh McDaniels talked about it a couple of weeks ago about the selflessness of this wide receiver group. A.J. Brown, he's frustrated. And I understand the frustration when you look at how the Eagles have used him. It's not just about the, statistics at the end of the day. But the price for A.J. Brown, when you probably can get him for less, if not a lot less, this offseason. And how does he fit in the middle of the year culture-wise? Jakobi Meyers is reportedly available, but Mac Hollins has played really well the past couple of weeks as a pass catcher and doing a really good job of blocking. He kind of sets up defenses as an in blocker. Defenses think that he's going to be blocking when he's lined up next to the tight end, and then all of a sudden he goes out there and hits a big route. That's how the Patriots converted that honey hole play this past weekend against Cleveland. Kayshon Boutte is even better than I anticipated. Jack Andrade from NFL Media Research, he posted most receiving touchdowns on deep passes since the start of the 2024 season, according to Next Gen Stats. Kayshon Boutte's tied for first with Jamar Chase. And Boutte and Emeka Egbuka are tied for first with 4 touchdowns on deep passes in 2025. And you also have, obviously, Stephon Diggs. Pop Douglas the last 2 or 3 weeks has started to pick it up. You'd like to give Kyle Williams an opportunity at some point. And Jordan Schultz reported that the belief is that the Raiders are looking for a day 2 pick to move Jakobi Meyers. I'm not giving up a 2nd or 3rd round pick for Jakobi Meyers. That's a non-starter for me with how the receivers are playing right now. And with me wanting to see Kyle Williams eventually a little bit more. So I think wide receiver has fallen down a number of slots when you look at the urgency to add there. All right, coming up, there's one position coach that deserves his flowers. Find out who that is and more next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs. With features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance, you can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
We're officially halfway done with the season. Kind of crazy how fast it's moving, but I wanted to give some of you, or all of you, some of my biggest takeaways so far this year, halfway through. The biggest takeaway is an easy and obvious one. This has been a lot of fun. This has been a lot of fun watching this team through the first 8 weeks. Compared to 2023 and 2024, I feel like we should be throwing a parade with how fun it has been to watch the Patriots play football this season. Mike Vrabel, Drake Maye certainly feel like the tag team champions of the world that we hoped that they would be. So that's the easiest, biggest takeaway. This is just fun. It's fun watching winning football. It's fun talking about winning football. It's fun about being excited, looking at the future of the Patriots after the last 2 years of misery. But some other takeaways for you that might not be as obvious. Josh McDaniels is everything that I had hoped he would be. I wanted Josh McDaniels to be this team's OC. I felt like it was the right move. I did so many podcast episodes and segments on the radio about Josh McDaniels being the guy and why he should be the guy. He has been fantastic. The Drake Maye progression, I did not expect that we'd be talking about Drake Maye being the MVP favorite halfway through this season. I was hoping we would be considering him a top 10 quarterback, really 10-ish, by the end of the year. He is way ahead of schedule, and I give a lot of that credit not only to Drake Maye himself, but Josh McDaniels. And McDaniels has shown that he's open to changing and tweaking his offense. Chad Graff in The Athletic wrote that when McDaniels was a head coach and play caller for the Raiders in 22 and 23, they ranked, this is kind of weird, 22nd and 23rd in the league in play action usage. The Patriots this season are 7th in play action usage. That is play calling to your team's strengths. Earlier this week, we talked about the run game versatility, the speed option plays, the read options, all the different stuff that we've seen, outside zone, gap, going downhill, combo blocks, like all the different things. Josh McDaniels has been open, as I expected him to be after reading a lot of stuff about him and talking with others. I expected him to be open to change, and we've seen those changes. We've seen what he's been doing, running more motion than he ran with Vegas. And the Patriots offense, they're 7th in scoring, they're 6th in EPA, they're 11th in DVOA. And you talk about sequencing and OCs sequencing plays to attack defenses. We saw a perfect example of that against the Browns. First drive of the third quarter when they ran that jet sweep with Pop Douglas, followed that up with a fake jet sweep to Stephon Diggs, play action off that to Ramondre Stevenson into a bootleg, Hunter Henry wide open in the flat for a touchdown. And so I think Josh McDaniels has been tremendous. I also think he's got a lot of help on the offensive staff. And I want to give a bouquet of flowers to Todd Downing. There was some question, will Todd Downing work as a wide receivers coach? He's a former OC. He has a lot of experience, obviously, on the offensive side of the ball. He's run his own offense multiple times. But, would he be a wide receivers coach that actually works? And I think he's been a huge upgrade at wide receivers coach compared to what the Patriots have had in prior years. The spacing is better. The route running is better, especially from Kayshon Boutte and Pop Douglas. And by the way, Todd Downing is sneaky great at celebrating on the sidelines. If you can catch him on the sidelines after a big play, keep an eye on him. A lot of times he's wearing a bright red shirt, hoodie, long sleeve shirt. I've caught him almost every Sunday celebrating. I mean, he's got some of the most hilarious celebrations There was one that he was like high stepping, running onto the field. It's just fantastic. So shout out to Todd Downing, who has seemingly solved the wide receivers coach problem the Patriots have had for several years. I think he's done tremendous. And finally, my last takeaway is that I'm just surprised that this run defense has been as spectacular as it's been. We had questions about Milton Williams. Philadelphia did not play him a ton last year compared to what he's playing this year. He played less than 50% of the snaps last season, and many said it was because he wasn't good against the run. Keion White, even though I don't think he's been great against the run and teams have run at him, they've been able to deal with that and survive that. You've got, Christian Ellis and Jack Gibbons, questions about those two guys at inside linebacker. But the run defense has been spectacular. It's been consistent and spectacular, which has been a pleasant surprise. All right, that wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Thank you for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer. Reach out to me on Twitter at NickCRadio. And don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. Hit that like button and subscribe. And for your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast with Tyler the Madman Rowland and Tony Wiggins. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow for the crossover.